Hello and welcome. Imagine for a moment that you are sitting in silence, not trying to accomplish anything, not striving for any particular outcome. You are simply sitting, aware of the moment you are in. Now, as you listen to the world around you, perhaps to the sound of my voice, notice not only the words themselves, but the brief pauses in between them. Between each word there is a silent gap, a brief moment of stillness. This is where life exists in its purest form. It is not in the constant noise, not in the continuous stream of thoughts, but in the brief, unspoken space where nothing happens, yet everything is present. You might not often realize it, but this silent space between thoughts is where freedom lies. We spend most of our time entangled in the thoughts that flow through our minds. We believe that our thoughts define us, that they shape our reality and who we are. But if you look carefully, you will notice that thoughts are just like waves on an ocean. They come and go, but the ocean itself, the vast stillness beneath the waves, remains unchanged. The space between thoughts is the ocean's depth, quiet, vast, and constant, while thoughts are the waves that rise and fall on the surface. How often do you find yourself caught in the endless cycle of thought, constantly moving from one idea to another? We are trained to think, to analyze, to plan. The world tells us that our value is in our productivity, our ability to constantly think and act. But what if we stopped for a moment and allowed ourselves to simply be? What if we gave ourselves permission to not chase after the next thought, the next idea, or the next goal? What if instead we rested in the spaces in between those thoughts? The mind is like a river, constantly flowing with new ideas and distractions. It pulls you along with it, and before you know it, you are swept up in the current, endlessly thinking, trying to fix problems, analyzing situations, planning for the future. But in every river, there are quiet pools of still water, places where the flow slows down, where the water becomes calm. The spaces between thoughts are those still pools. They exist within you, just as they exist in the world around us. But we often overlook them because we are too focused on the flow of the river. The essence of who you are is not the river of thoughts, but the awareness that watches the river. You are not the current. You are the observer who stands quietly by the riverbank, simply noticing the flow without being carried away by it. The river, the thoughts, the stories they create, all of this is temporary. It moves, changes, and flows. But the observer, the awareness, remains. It is the one constant in your experience, and it is in that constant awareness where true freedom lives. In a world that constantly encourages you to achieve, acquire, and compete, we often forget to ask ourselves what we truly need. We are taught to believe that our worth is tied to our accomplishments, that we must prove our value through the things we do or the things we have. But there is another way to live, one where you recognize that your value does not come from doing or achieving. It comes from being. You don't need to earn your worth because your worth is inherent in the awareness that you already are. When you rest in the space between thoughts, you can feel this truth. Consider for a moment that you are always whole, always complete, no matter what the world tells you. The ego, that voice in your mind, tries to convince you otherwise. It tells you that you need more, that you need to be different, or that you need to change in order to be happy. But what if this voice is not the truth? What if beneath the voice of the ego There is something deeper, something more real, that already knows you are whole. When you step into the silence, the space between thoughts, you reconnect with that deeper knowing. You recognize that you don't need to strive or struggle. You are already enough as you are, right here, right now. This space between thoughts is not something that requires effort or doing. It is simply the natural state of being. Think of it like this. When you close your eyes, there is a moment before you think, before you begin to feel, before your mind starts to fill with ideas. That moment is the space between thoughts. It is the moment of pure awareness, the moment of pure existence. It doesn't need to be created or controlled. It is always there, available to you whenever you choose to rest in it. In our busy lives, we often forget to pause and recognize the space that exists in the gaps. We think that we need to fill every moment with activity or with thought, but in reality, it is in the pauses that we find peace. It is in the spaces that we reconnect with ourselves. This doesn't mean you stop living or stop engaging with the world. It means that you stop identifying yourself with the never-ending flow of thoughts and start identifying with the stillness beneath them. When you do this, you can fully experience life without getting lost in it. When you begin to realize that you are not your thoughts, you free yourself from the endless chase for answers. The mind will continue to churn out thoughts, some of them helpful, some of them unnecessary. But you don't have to follow every thought down the path it suggests. You don't need to attach yourself to every story the mind creates. Instead, you can choose to simply be present in the space between those thoughts. And in that presence, you will discover a peace that doesn't depend on what's happening outside of you. The idea that we need to be constantly doing or thinking comes from the belief that we are incomplete without action. We believe that to be someone, we must be doing something. But in the space between thoughts, we realize that we are enough as we are. There is nothing to prove, nothing to fix, and nothing to attain. True freedom comes from the ability to simply be without the constant need to do or change. So take a moment to pause right now. Let go of the thoughts that may be running through your mind. Don't try to stop them, just let them be, without judgment. Simply notice the space in between. That space is where your true self lives. It's where you are free from the roles, the labels, and the expectations that the world places on you. It is the place where you are not defined by anything, not even by the thoughts you have. It is in this space that you can fully experience life without being attached to any particular outcome. When you live from this place of awareness, everything changes. You begin to move through life with a sense of openness, curiosity, and peace. You no longer need to control everything or strive to change things. You can simply allow it to unfold as it is, knowing that you are already whole. You don't need to chase after happiness because happiness is not something that can be found. It is something that is always available when you stop searching for it. The space between thoughts is not just an abstract concept. It is a real experience. When you allow yourself to be present in that space, you experience a deep sense of calm and clarity. Your mind becomes quieter, and the noise of the world fades away. In that silence, you are free. You are not the thoughts you think. You are not the stories you tell yourself. You are the awareness that watches them all come and go. And in that awareness, you find peace.